Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the Born to Innovate podcast. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Jean Templin. Jean is the co-founder of Nayak.ai, and her company is helping revolutionize the sales industry with AI to analyze sales calls and a lot more. And we'll dive into the specifics during this call. Thanks for joining us, Jean.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So to start off, for the viewers who don't know who you are, can you share a little bit about your background? How did you even get into this space and what inspired you to start this company?
Sure. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I like to classify myself as a pioneer. I'm a product person by heart, and I love to really solve hard problems, right? This isn't the first one, and use technology to do it. So I have solved, we did the first consumer VPN ever to secure and protect people. It got 100 million downloads, and I was instrumental in helping grow the revenue side of it. And then, I worked on a facial recognition and eye tracking software solution to help marketing people really understand is their message. So the beginnings of this neuroscience kind of stuff, understanding how our brains work and how we can, digitalize it. And then I guess how I got into AI really was I was working for Twilio and I worked in their contact center, and they had an initiative there to really look at AI and how does it kind of play across the field. And because I'm always looking to solve the hard problems, right? I helped author the first AI in contact centers. How would you solve the use cases? And then in Twilio, and then also did launch their first ever agent assist and virtual agent product into the call center with Google. So we had partnered with Google at that time. So since then, my curiosity has been piqued, right? It's kind of like, how is this evolving? And then, OpenAI came out with ChatGPT and the world exploded, right? It was kind of evolving behind the scenes, and then boom. I also worked at Avast, and which is now part of Norton, and we were using AI back then we had 430 million endpoints, and we were trying to determine using AI the next bug virus that was going to start to spread around. So with that many endpoints and that much data, we had a big data scientist team, and they were using AI in those pieces. Different than today, not this generative AI, but just a different form. And I think what people don't understand is AI's been around for a while, right? So it's not brand spanking new, but I think it's shinier and it's prettier now.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how you mentioned you were working on like voice agents over at Twilio like years before ChatGPT even existed. And nowadays I see these like voice agents all over the news. So you really were like one of the first in that field.
Yeah, that's why I like to say I'm a pioneer, right? Let's say it didn't work that great, not as great as they do today. It had to learn a lot more. You weren't able to feed in as much context or signals, right? But it still worked. So you were able to see some ROI on it, right? But it just took a little longer for time to value. So yeah.
So you worked at all these companies and then you gained all these experiences that led to you founding an AI company.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, tell us a bit about your role and what you're doing nowadays at Nayak AI.
So yeah, I'm helping really find the trajectory of the hockey stick that everyone's looking for as a founder. How do we position it in the right place to grow it? And at Nayak, what we really believe in is like the sales is going through a digital revolution, right? And you're hearing the new frameworks of digital first, human when needed concept starting to play. There's all these tools out there. You can talk about Clay, you can talk about a lot of different ones that kind of analyze a lot of signals to start in the front end of the sales journey. But when somebody books a demo and they really want to talk to somebody at the company, that's kind of where we come in, the human when necessary, or I like to say where the relationship is built, right? And Nayak was kind of founded on the hypothesis that we need to build trust to build a relationship, right? And trust is broken in many places. As we all know, this country is crazy right now, and there's a lot of trust that's broken in many different places. It's also broken in sales cycles. It's broken in different places. So I'm sure you've been on a call before when you go in and they're like, well, what do you want to discuss? Or tell me what you want to review in the demo. Why don't you know that? Right? There's enough tools out there to know that. So these are kind of the things that I think once you understand that, and I think people are realizing it's something like 87% of buyers in the sales journey have done a ton of research before they actually come to you. And so the sales frameworks, the sales world has to change slightly to make sure that they're prepared for these things too. And then as you're in the call, our goal is to really help and coach people through relationship building during a call. And also analyzing anything that may have been there in the call as it occurred. So kind of these meeting summaries at the end, right? So yeah, we do a lot of different things to prep people for this. But yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I really like how you emphasize the trust in the sales process. And one thing I've learned as a founder myself is that oftentimes people don't really buy off the product itself, but it's the trust and whether they even like you as a person to begin with. And especially, I see all these AI sales agents coming up, and I feel like a lot of these startups are missing that point. Like, for example, whenever I get a call and it's some AI robot on the phone, I just instantly hang up. So I'm curious, like, what major shifts are you seeing in the sales industry with AI?
Yeah, I think, everyone's like fully automated SDRs, AI SDRs, never, who's going to take a call from a fully on? I mean, as you said, you're like, to me, it's kind of like that annoyance where you don't even have the ability to talk to me. Then why would I trust you in a relationship as you build forward, right? So I think buyers are way more sophisticated right now than the sellers are, and the sellers have to catch up. So that buyer has done research. That buyer knows who you are. That buyer has done a lot of prep work. And you can't come to the call and expect to start at the beginning of your framework and say, oh, this is the discovery. Tell me your pain points, right? Or I'm sure you've gotten emails, which I have, where you're on a demo, you book a demo, and they're like, well, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, what do you think I want to talk about? Look at what my company does. Tell me what, figure that out. You should know that, right? So I think that's where when somebody comes to a call prep, I automatically trust them, right? That level of trust has already started. So those are kind of the things that we're seeing changing, right? That prepping for a call is extremely important. And of course, you can use AI to do that. And then also beyond prepping for a call, reading the room. And I think that's a skill set that's very different than just conversational AI. How do you read the room, right? Because there's things like your facial expressions, there's things like your body language, there's the tone of your voice, there's the way the interaction's going between two people to say, hey, do I trust or like that person? There's so many factors in that, and this is what AI is really good in solving. There's generational. Picture a baby boomer talking to a Gen Z on a call. Probably is very interesting, and it is interesting to watch, right? But what if you could adjust both sides slightly, right? Or what if you could adjust more? Not to mention different personality types, right? A captain versus an observer or something. So like you got to kind of understand this cultural differences, right? So all those things are kind of taken into consideration when we're looking at how do we help people build relationships. And I think tools, whether you use Nayak or not, that is really where relationships come from. And when you analyze the people who are really good at sales, they are really good at these things, right? And how can I help everybody else become as good as them?
Yeah, and that's what I think when you see all this media news about like AI is going to take people's jobs. I don't think, at least in the near term future, there's no way that human element can be replicated.
I agree. I don't think so. And I think what happens is there's going to be a whole big bunch of other jobs that are created, just like when the internet was going to take away everyone's jobs, right? Mobile phones were going to take away everyone's jobs. But what in reality happens is different jobs get created, right? And people then no longer have to do submenial tasks like filling out the CRM in salespeople's world. They're hired to be relationship people. It shouldn't matter, do I know Salesforce or HubSpot, or do I know this tool or that tool? Who cares? It should be, am I a great relationship builder? Right. And if I'm not, how can I be coached to become that relationship builder? But I think we've required all of these tools because of the forecasting and the red ops teams and whatnot. But if you were really good at relationships, it was always going to show through. And who cared if you knew how to use Salesforce, right? In many ways. So I think that's where AI really helps, and it's not going to take away your job. It's going to make it better to being the core thing that you as the human need to get really good at, and that's relationships.
Definitely. So we're both working in the AI field, and we both know there's new advancements coming out all the time. So have all these tech advancements, have they helped or hurt your business, and in what way?
It's interesting because I think we've been doing agentic AI for a while in our world, right? So we always believed that enough context, there are these kind of steps together to get this goal that you were trying to do, right? So when all this new stuff came out, we have always thought through the problem of, I'm not putting my eggs all in one basket, right? I need to be flexible. I don't every day, whether it's OpenAI, Anthropic, whether it's it doesn't matter. We use all the models. We never build a one framework. And I actually asked somebody, they were using Watson once. I was like, I don't even know anybody who uses Watson anymore. Oh, our whole company, it's really great. Well, what if it's not? Right? We don't know who the leader is going to be or who the winners are going to be. It's still so early. So for me, what we have always thought about is, how do you keep it flexible enough, right? Because you have the next day something else. And you're absolutely right. It hasn't hurt us because we've thought through it differently. Because I've been in enough situations where you've pegged on a technology, and then what if they bankrupt? What if they don't get any more funding, right? Like, what do you do? So we've thought through that in every decision that we've made.
Got it. And then, so let's say there's someone watching right now, maybe they're having some sales challenges in their business. So what kind of businesses are you helping, and like what kind of results are you helping get for them?
Yeah, we really have two kind of our ICPs are really two focuses right now. We're really helping MSPs and founders. So earlier stage in the sales world, right, where you're either transitioning from founder-led sales to your first salesperson, because there's some unique problems there, right? Like, hey, I got to make sure I still can make payment, my sale, pay everyone in my company. Plus, because I got to scale my revenue, but how do I do that? I don't want to let it go, right? As a founder, when do I let go? How do I do that? And what tools should I put in place? So this is really some of the things that we help with: standardizing messages when they're in the calls, and making visible to that founder what they are afraid of letting go of, right? And then when sales teams are growing, and that manager has to hire more, how do I make sure that the same kind of quality that I have, I can ensure is in my salespeople? I can't be in every call, but how can I have tools that help me look at data in different ways to be able to solve for that, right? So building sales teams or being that first founder and transitioning, really where you're starting to grow, right? And you're really trying to figure things out. And I think that's really where we come in and help the most, right? Or let's say you have a failing SDR team or a failing whatever team, that AE team, we can come in and relook at it, almost like a restart, or where you're seeing things not working. That's really where we fit. And it's not, super high touch, multi-billion dollar deal, sales cycle, long sale. No, we're talking about sort of SaaS platforms, right? Like something that's 20, 30 ARR, something in that range, where things are there. It's not super. It can be technical, like in the MSP world, it is technical. And either people have technical skills and don't have sales skills, or have sales skills and don't have technical skills, and that's where we fill the gaps. That makes sense.
That's interesting. So can you expand a little bit on, like, you mentioned about the data that can help these kind of companies that are transitioning from like founder-led sales to building out their sales teams. This is something that I've had a challenge with in the past as well. So can you talk a little bit more through like what data you're helping them with?
Yeah, so we help them understand, or help them improve. And some of them, depending on where they're at, will come in with this Excel spreadsheet. Some people are in CRMs, right? And what we really do is help them understand, when they have that demo and they're moving it forward through whatever their stages are, whether it's demo, proposal, close, right, or whatever they framework they may be in. Really listening in on the calls, making sure that we're helping them prepare. So what we do is we create something called a cheat sheet or a smart call planner that goes out and aggregates data, brings it together, and depending on your industry, for instance, for MSPs, we'll do a dark web scan so we can help drive urgency, right? Hey, we've seen that your company is already has some vulnerabilities, right? And we present that out to the salesperson in what we call a cheat sheet in many ways, right? Also, it talks about their personality types and how they should approach different asking the questions. So you can read all this and prepare yourself. We do all the work. You just come in 5 minutes before, read through it, and then as you're on the call, we can guide you, right? And guiding what we do is we have hints so that if somebody gets stumped, which you do if you're not the founder typically, right? Or maybe sometimes it's the founder, we can pull up hints that helps you get past that. And then we also have what is called a personalized agenda. And then at the end, we summarize it all up, right? And we give you some basic things like, are you listening enough in a call? Are you talking too much? Are you talking too fast? What was your sentiment? And we're adding more and more data points on. And as we add them in the analysis at the end, they're also going live as you're speaking. So instead of waiting to the end of the call to say, shoot, I should have slowed down, we're actually telling you in the midst of the call, listen a little bit more. You're dominating the call. So those are the kind of things that we are working on. But that's how we do it. So, and then what we're finding is everybody that's like, if you're in the with your MSPs from the demo to proposal stage, we're able to 2x the amount of people that get to proposal stage, and proposal stage to close, we're seeing a 1.2% increase, and then the deal velocity, so the time between it is shrinking. So those are our early indicators of the groups that we have running on it right now. So it's very promising, and every data point that we add, we're watching those metrics to say, how does it improve? Hopefully it doesn't not improve it and goes the other way, but we believe it will be even better the more to a point the amount of data that you put in there.
Those are impressive results. So what's going well in your business right now?
What's going well? I think, I think, the positive feedback from our customers. What's interesting is they love the technology. Now they want us to put it in many other places. Why can't I have it in onboarding? The same kind of, because it's about this handoff of knowledge between teams too, right? Like, how do you ensure that the onboarding team has the same message can be sent through the whole way to the customer, right? And it's also like above, it's like CEOs or founders are going, oh, this is cool. I can get a pulse on what's happening to my whole company if I actually have this data on everybody. So taking it out of just the sales world and applying it in many other parts of the business, and think about it as an operational toolkit, right? Like, and those are kind of the things where it's great. We keep asking, I love your technology. Can you use it here and here and here and here? And then it's kind of like, yes, of course you can, but how do you get it all done? Right? And it's the infamous product priority kind of things that are happening. So the good news is they love it and they want it to be used in other places and they see the value.
And on the other side of things, what kind of challenges are you facing with the business as you try to scale?
Yeah, I think challenges are pretty much probably what everybody else faces. We always need more money. We always need more people. Like, we know what to do. We have so many data pieces coming in. We know what to do. The question is, I feel like I can't go fast enough. And even if I had all the money in the world, I don't even think I could still go fast enough, right? Because you can only scale so fast. And I think what we're trying to do very different than I think other people is we're trying to scale smart. I want to build be one, and there's other ones out there now. You can see them. They're able to scale to 15 to 20 million in revenue with 15 people. That's my goal, right? If I'm truly an AI first company, if I'm building AI, why the hell am I not using AI in my business, right? And we use it on pretty much every part of our world. We use the ability to see what everybody else is saying in the company. Even though we're not very big, it's still interesting to see the pulse of the company, right? And then also We use it in development. We use it in lead generation. We use our tool in sales generation. We use it to generate content. Every part of the business, we are looking at how can I use AI to do different things, right? I put our call recorder in all my product stuff, everything. So I want to not only build, I want to build it smart. I want to see how I can become and I think, and maybe I'd love to hear your thought on this, is, the gold standard in tech was always $1 million revenue, one person, right? When you figure that out, you optimize. And now I'm seeing companies come out, $2 million a person, and they're small and they're scrappy, and that's fun to watch. And I hope tech will level some of that playing field. So I'd love to hear your thought on that.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you there. I don't think you need a ton of people to make a great company. In fact, there's some really insane examples I've seen. Like Telegram is one that I think of. I think they hit like 1 billion with, I think, 40 people. And another one is Midjourney. I think they hit like 200 million with 20 people. So they're like great examples that you don't need a lot of people. You need
the right people, and they're hard to get, right? So, and they're hard to put into your culture, right? Our culture is different than others, and I don't want it to break. I want it to be open and, and collaborative. And I don't want fiefdoms. I've seen enough silos and fiefdoms in my life. I want everyone to feel like they have the ability. And I think, I do prompt engineering. I don't code as much anymore. I did in my olden days, but like I love to just look at this stuff and see the hardcore stuff to the UI, and I'm very particular on the UI too, right? So, and I want my developers to be that particular, and I want them to truly love everything that comes out of this, right? And I agree. I think it will be interesting. I think the next $1 billion companies are going to be 20, like you're saying, sub 50 people, right? If done right with AI, doable, absolutely doable. And then those margins only become bigger, right?
Yeah, and I want to touch on that point about the right people, because I think that's really important. And for example, like one of the companies I mentioned, Telegram, I got curious. I looked at their website. They don't even interview anyone. Anyone who wants to join has to go through like a set of tests instead. So how have you been able to find the right partnerships and employees for your business?
To me, I have a pretty big network of people. Like if I could just suffer through those, brilliant people I have worked with in my career, and some other newer ones that are coming up, right, are people who tell me that these people are great. That's how I like to work, right? Because to me, I have to also trust them and see if they believe in that. I'm not as big a proponent of tests as I am that you must use my products. And I've had a lot of people, and I've interviewed a lot of people in my life that they're like, oh yeah, well, tell me what you do. I'm like, how again is that my thing to do, right? But I do think you should be able to bring some ideas to the table and think through things. I would love to, and I think the best thing I ever learned was sit down with everybody, especially if it's only going to be a small amount of people. You can do it very differently. You could have coffee and dinner with them, right? You can get to know who they are and what's important to them. Because skills, in many ways, you're going to hire them for a skill, and they're going to be great in some things, and then there's going to be some things they're going to learn, right? So that's kind of how I think of it. It's going to be it has been and will be very personal and touch. I don't know if I'll ever put anything on a job board, honestly.
Yeah, I really like the point you keep bringing up about trust. And one thing that I've learned personally through hiring people is that I feel like anyone can learn on paper skills like coding, but trust and work ethic are things you can't learn. They're something that are pre-built once the person comes in. Is that something that you agree with as well?
Yeah, and my sister and I talk about it a lot. It's kind of like the way you're wired, right? Like I think you learn that strong in life, and work ethic is definitely something that is learned early, I think. I mean, I have no scholarly, stuff on the back to support that, but it's like your mom taught you how to work, or your dad taught you how to work, or your grandma, whomever, right? Like you have this influence that said you have to put the time in. It just doesn't come to you freely, right? Um, and then for me, yeah, and that is really, really important. And I think that's what some of this, the relationships that you're looking at is, can they do that? Can they not do that? And yeah, I guess again, I come from a generation, I'm an Xer. We drank from the hose. We didn't have we didn't have treats. We didn't have half of this stuff. We figured shit out, right? And it is interesting to see, to use this. And I think there's a lot of people for the right reasons willing to join companies, and it's not all monetary based, right? If you believe in your mission, and I have a mission to build trust, people get it's broken. People want to help, right? And I want to stay true to our mission. I want to stay true to that fact. And, it's broken in many places. We're focusing on sales, right? But like, how can we take that and rebuild it and make everything better, right? That's a grand mission, right? But that's a very hard mission. But yeah, and people gravitate to stuff like that. So
Yeah, I want to touch on the point you just made because I think it's really good. So, of course, money is important. Almost every business, their North Star metric is how much revenue we're making. But you mentioned it's not all about that. So, what kind of other metrics do you care about and try to optimize in your business?
yeah, oh, wow, I try to optimize towards solving problems and really building relationships, because it's not always instant revenue today. I mean, of course, revenue is important, but I also want to make sure that we stand for a mission that we can believe in, right? And I don't think this one is political. It's kind of like, let's just build better relationships between humans, right? And how can we help do that with data? And I think doable, right? And I think people are feeling the pain of this not being there already, and how can they help? And then I think, so to me, yeah, that's a KPI. Another KPI is satisfaction of employees, right? Like, I want everyone to be happy and love what they do, because you will get the best results of that, right? You're not going to be happy all the time. I'm not happy all the time. I have to do shit I don't like, right? I hate accounting, and yet I have to sometimes look at that stuff that I don't care about. But you still got to do it, right? And that's the work ethic part. You always have to do something in your job that, oh, I don't like, or I don't want to do that, right? And so I think, those are some of the other things we look at. I want a staff and a culture that feels alive and not suppressed.
Yeah, I really align with what you said about like not being happy all the time because as like a founder or someone has to wear a lot of hats, you can't be happy all the time. But no matter what, if I have a sales call, I have to show up with a smile on my face and a good attitude, no matter how I'm feeling.
Well, yeah, and I guess maybe, yeah, in my journey, I have always thought about, I get the privilege to solve this, right? Or I get the privilege. It's not always easy. I, like you as a founder, don't sleep some nights because I'm thinking about things, or I solve something in my head. I wake up in the middle of the night and I write it down, right? But to me, that is so much more exciting than sitting there as as a cog in a wheel, and you're just going around in a circle, right? Having that ability to solve, and having the freedom to kind of bring that to life. That's what I want to, smaller, like I said, 40 people, 50 people, get the right team of group. And you want the person that thinks differently than you too, because you want to be challenged. You just don't want that bunch of yeses men or no men or women, right? So I think for me, it's all of that. And I learned that a lot when I was building, one of my startups, was a political app, and I had to embrace both sides because we wanted to be middle ground, right? Um, and it was interesting to hear that people aren't far off. They are a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And I think, that's kind of thinking where we think we're so far different, but we're really not. And I think bring all that into the table, and you have really strong companies then, and thinking through problems completely, right? Not just from one point of view. And I think that's very interesting in AI. There's very few female founders and very few female leaders. And so once again, we're having a conversation about prompting. And yes, you can see the difference in the way things are prompted when they're women or men, right? There's gentler tones, there's different things. And I gravitate towards one versus another because of the way that things are presented out. But I don't know. I just feel like this is very much like a dude talking to me versus this is much different than a woman talking to me.
That's interesting. So we've talked a lot about what you've been up to recently, what the company is up to. So now let's switch gears to the future. So what's your vision? Where do you see the company going in the next like 6 to 12 months from now?
My vision, I always say I would love to see Nayak become this part of every sales journey where, let's say you're asking Siri in the morning or Alexa or whomever, hey, what's my day like today? Right. And it's like, oh yeah, here it is. I'm going to tell you about all the meetings you're going to have. Oh yeah, this is what you said in the last meeting. This is what I'm telling you what's going to happen. You're in the call. It's maybe, I don't know, talking to you on your phone, whispering in your ear, your finger, your ring's going off, your watch is going. I don't know what it's going to be. Some wearable out there, kind of guiding you through conversations. Maybe it's the chip in the head that Elon Musk is working on. Who knows, right? Whatever. And then, as you go through it and you're optimizing all this, and you don't have all this tedious work. That's the super future. You asked me 18 months. I'm hoping we're halfway there on the journey. We're pretty far. We've been at it for about a year and a half. So we came out of Techstars, right? And we've been really focused on getting this right before we try to make it to the next level and scale, right? I don't want to be one of those companies that come out and go through your seed and your A and your B and you have no revenue because you plateaued, because you really didn't find market fit. You just kind of got sorted here, right? And as I said, I want to use AI to scale my company in a different way. And I see a lot of them out there struggling with sales now. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm kind of slow rolling it on purpose a little bit as we make it look a little better. So yeah.
So the vision is not just to be like a sales tool, but to be integrated part of a person's like daily work life almost.
Correct.
Mhm.
And in the future, I mean, if you really think about it, it could be integrated not just for work, but everywhere. Think about, I always laugh at this one. What if you were on your dating and you're on Hinge or something like that, and you could say, do I trust this person? Do I not? Right? Like, would that be another indicator in building relationships in a different part of the world, or having government use it? How can I trust these other government agencies? I don't know, because on the other side of it is going to be more agents, right? So it's agents, and where's the human in there, and how do you? It's fascinating to me where it's going to wind up, but I do think that will be part of this overall daily flow of business stuff. Could it be expanded out into personal? Absolutely.
And back to the present, if you could solve like one major challenge today to get you closer to that vision, what would it be?
Major challenge. I would say I'm still looking to add one more person to our team, a close one. More in the way to think about sales in the future. I'm almost thinking they're almost like a AI engineer sitting on the sales side, but can sell. It's like, I don't know what they're going to be called, but they're going to be these people who can aggregate data to the next level, but yet get on a sales call and use tools like ours and extend them, right? As that happens.
Got it. Well, I think we're just about like 30 minutes. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I definitely learned a lot from this conversation, and I hope that everyone watching did too. So for anyone watching who might want to work with your company or connect with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, they can go to our site. It's Nayak.ai, and Nayak is spelled Nayak.ai. And you can also email me directly at Jean, Jean, at Nayak.ai.
Thanks a bunch, Jean. And that wraps up another episode of Born to Innovate.
Thank you.
All right.